The problem is you just can't seem to feel close to people, even if you try. You can't even get close to people, and you're wondering, where did this come from? Why is it that I can't feel close to people? Why? And there's a lot of reasons, but why is it that I can't even get close to people when I want to? And you stop and ponder this, and you realize that back when you were in your earliest years, we're talking first, second grade in school, that you learned that you could not. I'm speaking to people with Asperger syndrome, to people with autism, but you tried to get close to people. You tried to fit in, you tried to be normal, and you learned you just couldn't do it. Now, that went on for your entire childhood, trying over and over again and on into adulthood, but it wasn't just that you were trying to fit in, but it was that you were experiencing constant rejection. So the question now is, how is that impacting my life, and how is that distorting my way of thinking? Now, I got to say this. Typically, they would say this is a distortion, but sometimes I wonder if we should call it altered thinking rather than distorted thinking. In other words, what is correct and what is incorrect? Is it natural or normal for people with Asperger syndrome to understand that they don't fit in, that they are not going to be accepted by a large number of people, that they are not socially adept, but they are socially inept? This is just reality. Or that would be altered thinking, or would we just say, this is really distorted. This is not who I am. Well, you can make your own decision on this, but my decision is I think it's altered, not necessarily distorted, even though we can say it's distorted based upon neurotypical people, but based upon what I've experienced as a person with Asperger syndrome, with a person who is autistic, I would have to draw the conclusion that, it's not distorted, it's just altered. This, in other words, I now fit the mold, and I learned to fit the mold a long time ago. So what are we going to do with this? Well, we stop and think about our childhood, and we stop and think about what it is that we confronted. And sometimes what we may want to do rather is make a list. I talk a lot about journaling, and I actually did this. I actually sat down, and I'm not going to encourage you to do this unless you think it will be helpful, but you might want to consider doing it. That is, I actually took out a sheet of paper, took out a pen and paper, and I made a list of all the notable experiences that I had even into adulthood where I was with a group of people. And when my experience was that I was rejected by the group as a whole, kind of surprising, when my mind went to work, I realized that I had, well over a dozen different experiences, primarily in my adult lifetime. It's like, every couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I'd have a dramatic experience that affirmed or confirmed that, I just don't fit into the group. I just don't. And is that distorted thinking? Did I really fit in? But because of my childhood experiences, I was saying, no, I don't. And my conclusion was, I'm pretty sure I did fit in. I mean, it became very obvious that these people did not want me around. Sometimes they flat out get up and leave you. I mean, there was one time I was ditched. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean, they drove off and left me on the side of the road. That's a pretty good sign they don't want to be around you. They don't want you to be around them. So it transcends, and I know there's some therapists that will be bugged by me saying this, but it transcends mere distorted thinking. This is what people with Asperger syndrome, with autism, actually experience. This is our life. That doesn't make us bad people, but because we are comparing ourselves, not with ourselves, we're comparing ourselves not with other Aspies, with other people with autism, but we are comparing ourselves to neurotypical people, and we say to ourselves, we're not normal. There's something wrong with us. That's because I believe, and this is just my opinion, we're making our own comparison. Obviously, if I'm going to compare myself to, a professional basketball player, I'm going to feel like a loser. But if I compare myself to people who play basketball the way that I play basketball, come to think of it, I don't play basketball. But if I did, I'm not very good at it. And if I compared myself to other people who aren't very good at it, I would have to draw the conclusion, hey, I'm just normal. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, what about opera singers? Have you ever wanted to be an opera singer? Remember when you were a kid and people would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And somebody, typically what you'd say, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a cowboy, depending on how old you are, or I want to be a nurse if you are a female, or I want to be a school teacher. How many kids that you know of said, I want to be an opera singer? I don't know anyone who did that, but okay, but say you did. Say your goal in life was to be an opera singer, and it turns out that you're tone deaf. And you're comparing yourself to other opera singers. Yeah, you're going to feel like you are distorted. There's something drastically wrong with you. Not only can you not hit those high notes or low notes or whatever type of opera singer you desire to be, you can't hit any of the notes. Well, you can hit one because you're tone deaf and you just sing that one note all the time. Okay, so you got that far. You're comparing yourself to the wrong thing. Compare yourself to other people who are tone deaf and you're just normal. Well, people with autism, we have mind blindness. That's normal. For us, that's typical. So we're not distorted. We are we're altered relative to neurotypical people. I fail to see the problem. Now, supposing you want to be an opera singer, and you're still not a good opera singer, but you're a decent singer, still doesn't work. Compare yourself to decent singers and you fit right in. So it's not a matter of right or wrong. This is, again, just my opinion. Take it for whatever you think it's worth, but it's a matter of how we compare ourselves. When we start comparing ourselves to people who are better than us, then we're going to feel like we are somehow cheated out of life. And if we compare ourselves to people who are not as good as us, then we get the big head, get a little bit arrogant, and I don't think that's good either. Number two is this. When we start comparing ourselves to other people and give ourselves expectations that we really can't live up to, what I think happens is that we begin to wonder, what is it with me? I mean, what's wrong with me? Why is it? What did I do wrong? And this is very common when you can't fit in socially, and you're wondering, what's my problem? Do I have bad breath? Am I too big? Am I too short? Is it some physiological characteristic? Maybe they don't like me because of my, transcending physiological characteristics. Maybe they don't like me because of my economic status. Maybe they don't like me because of my race. And we go down this list of all the things. I told you about the little boy who came to our church and got punched in the nose. And he said, I asked him, why he wanted to know why this kid punched him in the nose. And he said he punched me. The little boy said he punched me because I'm black. And I had to sit him down and explain to him that the kid who punched him punches everybody. He's not, selective. Had nothing to do with his race. I had a neighbor lady years ago who got scammed by a plumber, overcharged her for a little bit of work she did. And she said, it's because I'm a woman. Self-blame. So I didn't explain it to her, but I thought about that. And, I had that same plumber at my house, and, he did basically the same thing. Did a little bit of work for a lot of money, and I never called the plumber back because, he scammed me. Now I could say, he did it because I'm a man. That makes sense. But the point is the woman was blaming herself. There was something about her, so we internalized the blame. And when we go through life being rejected by people, we say, I must have done something wrong, or worse yet, I am wrong. There is something faulty about me. Not necessarily. It could just be that the other people are the bad guys, and usually that is the case. So if you are rejected by neurotypical people, that's not your problem. It's their problem. I mean, they're the ones who are doing something wrong. They are the ones who are at fault. So stop blaming yourself. Easier said than done, right? By the way, I got to say, somebody left a note in the comment section that said the volume on my videos was not. I just got a message here. Let me close this. The volume on my videos was a little bit low, so if it sounds, if the volume sounds decent to you, please let me know. If it doesn't, let me know. The other thing we want to talk about is sometimes we just feel powerless. We feel like we are out of control. That people treat us or mistreat us or abuse us in ways that they really shouldn't treat us or really shouldn't, flat out abuse us or reject us. They shouldn't do that. So we get enmeshed in these should statements. People should do this or should not do that. Whatever. The fact of the matter is there are some things in life that we cannot control. Just can't. I mean, okay, there's a lot of things in life we cannot control. And that goes back, we may blame ourselves, but what do we do about that? I think something that might be very useful, at least this is, again, something that I do. I don't give people advice. I just share with them my experiences. Having, lived nearly 70 years now, I've learned a few things, learned a thing or two. I want to share these with you. So, I've learned to focus on what I can control. So, I don't do well around people, large groups of people. It's stressful. I get anxious, sometimes even depressed. I get frustrated. The worst place in the world is a grocery store at the peak hours. Hate that. How do you control that? Well, what I do, the way that I control it, is I go to the grocery 6 o'clock in the morning on Sundays. There's nobody there except for me and a few people working, maybe one or two other Aspies, or people who are there because of their work schedule. That's the only time they can shop. But not only that, but you get in and out a whole lot quicker. And there's no traffic on the road. I mean, there's just a lot of reasons to do that, and I am in control. So I'm able to avoid it. Sometimes you can't avoid things, but that I can avoid. I mean, you can't avoid going to school, right? Unless your parents will let you be homeschooled, but other than that, there are state laws in place that say you have to go to school. And you go to school and you put it in an environment which is effectively abusive, not just by one person, but by a lot of people. Well, so I can control when and where I shop. That is just one example. I can also control to some degree who I hang around and who I don't hang around. There are some people who I know personally who are just narcissistic. I mean, they're toxic. So I can control that to some degree. I can just flat out stay away from them. There are some people I can think of, or actually just one person of 8 billion rather people. That's not bad, 1 out of 8 billion. That I prefer strongly. I prefer not to be around. If she is in the room, I won't be. If she was at the event, I won't be. Okay, just one person like that, but I can control it, And people say, well, you're giving up so much because of this one person. Why would you deny yourself being around your friends or family, whatever, because of this one person? And I think the reason they say that is they don't understand how difficult it is. They don't understand the trauma, the anxiety that you go through. All right, there are 2 rectangles on the screen. The reason is, I'm thinking, you might want to keep on hanging out, so let's do it. If you want, just click one of those 2 rectangles, but if not, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see y'all next time.